On today's episode of the Cryptoverse. Now, in any given market condition, including a bear market, there are dozens and dozens of different stories that come out about cryptocurrencies. And my job, and the reason I imagine you come to my channel and my podcast, is to find out the one or two stories that I believe are the most important to pay attention to. Now, today I did pick two, but I began sort of writing the notes for the first one, and it became so big that the second one kind of went by the wayside. So what I want to talk about today is a concern about EOS and what I can only describe as potentially gross negligence on behalf of the Arbitration Forum. So all of that on today's episode of the Cryptoverse, so stay right there. So I sort of entitled my notes, Does the EOS Core Arbitration Forum understand the crypto user base at all? So suffice to say that EOS is having some teething problems. I think we can all agree on that as a basis. So what's been causing most of the controversy since the launch is a feature within EOS called ECAF. And that stands for the EOS Core Arbitration Forum. So this is an organization of skilled arbitrators that you can apply to as an EOS token holder. Say if you've been a victim of a scam or a phishing attack and you've had some of your property stolen or taken against your will. That's what it's for, right? In a similar way to a court system, what you do is you submit your evidence to the arbitration forum, you prove that you are the owner of that property and you prove that it was taken against your will, and then the arbitrators will review all the evidence just like a court, and then they'll make a ruling. So if the arbitrators then rule in your favor and say, yes, your property was taken against your will, well, they can then issue a request to the EOS block producers to take remedial action on your behalf, such as forcibly transferring the property from the account of the attacker back to the rightful owner. In this case, that would be you. So this all sounds amazing, doesn't it, in theory? Because the law of the jungle, as it's called, that's typically how blockchains are governed, right? It's just that's incompatible with the non-technical user. Because the law of the jungle is like, if you make a mistake and you lose your money, hard luck. It's a very hard line in the law of the jungle, right? If the tiger jumps out and eats you, that's it. That's the end of it. There's no morals or laws against that. So the fact that the law of the jungle is incompatible fundamentally with non-technical crypto users, this is one of the main reasons why EOS holds so much promise in the first place. But to quote Gary Vee, quote, "Ideas are shit, execution is everything," close quote. Now I would paraphrase that in my words by saying it is how we do something that can completely transform the result of what we do. Now, the how differs greatly depending on how well you know the market that you're dealing with. To me, that would be the key differentiator. So like, for example, say in different cultures, some behaviors and some gestures even are wholly inappropriate. So this actually applies in different social circles as well, right? There are certain social expectations that must be adhered to and ignored at your peril. And it's kind of your responsibility to know the social order if you're going to participate in it, right? So in this case, we're talking about the ECAF, and I think they made such a fundamental error on how they conducted themselves as to cause me to actually question whether they are fit for purpose. Now, you know, when I say things like that, and I say things like this about EOS, you know it's serious. So far there have been two high profile rulings from ECAF, right? The first one was this request to the EOS block producers to temporarily freeze 7 EOS accounts, which the arbitrators determined were owned by users who were victims of phishing attacks, and that those 7 users, their funds were at risk. So the attackers were going to transfer the money out of those accounts. So ECAF said to the block producers, can you just freeze these accounts so the attackers cannot remove the funds, and then we'll decide what to do. And of course, the benefit of freezing those accounts is that the victims could then say, set up a brand new EOS account with brand new private keys that weren't compromised, and then they could have those funds transferred from the compromised account to their new account, and there it is resolved. Prevention of property theft. But, and this is a big but, in this case, the block producers did not wait for the outcome of the arbitration ruling. Right? The 21 block producers all unanimously decided to jump the gun and freeze the accounts anyway, before the arbitration forum had concluded. It was in process, it was under consideration, but they didn't actually rule before the block producers took the action, right? So the arbitrators did then come out with a ruling that the accounts should be frozen after the fact, but so the result would have been the same. The accounts would have got frozen and it was fine. The block producers and the arbitration forum agreed, but it was the sequence of how it happened that matters the most. So the reason the block producers actually took action without a ruling from ECAF is because the attackers were going to remove the funds from those seven accounts like literally any minute. And the block producers felt that they didn't have time to wait for a ruling. And if they waited, then the attackers would be able to remove the funds from the accounts. So they decided to protect the users and freeze those accounts anyway. That was a big mistake on behalf of the block producers because it violated the EOS Constitution, right? If you look at the EOS Constitution, which is publicly available, Article 9, which is dispute resolution, it states, quote, all disputes arising out of or in connection with this Constitution shall be finally settled under the rules of dispute resolution of the EOS Court Arbitration Forum by one or more arbitrators appointed in accordance with these said rules. Close quote. So what am I saying here exactly? I am saying that the block producers should have waited for the official arbitration ruling. Yes, absolutely, even if it meant giving the attackers more time to steal the funds, right? At the end of the day, it's still the user's responsibility to exercise vigilance when it comes to protecting their cryptos. So that's the fundamental rule. The law of the jungle is the law by default, right? If you fail to protect your private key, then you fail to protect your funds. Now, yes, in EOS, there is a mechanism to potentially recover your funds through the arbitration forum, but it's not guaranteed, right? It's not something you should rely on, and it does not negate the need to exercise good security practice on your part, because there is still a distinct possibility that if you make a mistake and reveal your keys, that your money could still be stolen, right? That's the default action if you lose your keys. It's only a bonus feature that you may be able to apply to the arbitration forum to get your mistake corrected, because it's your mistake at the end of the day. So I'm saying that following the governance process ruthlessly is absolutely critical for token holders to have faith in the EOS system, right? If the governance process itself is optional, well, then there's no real universal rule of law in EOS, and it's supposed to be the rule of law blockchain. So to be clear, in the first instance, the arbitration forum in this first instance, they performed fine, right? They were going through the process in their own time, and they finally did rule when they came to a clear decision. It was the block producers who broke the Constitution by going ahead anyway. So that was case number one. Now let's move on to high-profile case number two, in which the arbitrators displayed gross negligence and a fundamental lack of understanding of the crypto user base, in my opinion. So in this second case, an arbitration ruling was allegedly issued on the 22nd of June requesting the freeze of 27 accounts. Again, probably more victims of scams, which is fine. However, what's really bugging people out, me included, is the last line of the arbitration ruling that says, quote, the logic and reasoning for this order will be posted at a later date. Close quote. Now, there is a footnote in the arbitration order that says that this is within the rules of arbitration for a decision to be made before the reasoning is released, but that rule is fundamentally incompatible with the crypto space. So this takes us right back to what I was saying about understanding the social culture that we are dealing with, and that a certain behavior in one culture may be acceptable, but the same behavior completely unacceptable in another culture. So as a crypto market analyst and commentator, I can tell you without a doubt that the social culture of crypto, you're almost guilty until proven innocent, right? Everything's a scam by default until it proves itself not to be a scam. So in crypto, you almost start off with a negative trust balance, and you have to work double hard just to get back to zero, right? Then you have to constantly prove yourself to accrue a positive trust balance, right? That's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, and it is not easy, right? Now, you may not agree with me in particular when I might take money from projects to do sponsored reviews to fund the channel and so on, but I've always declared which videos I was being paid for. So that's that transparency angle. What this means for the EOS Core Arbitration Forum is that if they cannot simultaneously release the ruling and an exhaustive publication of their decision-making process, the evidence, reason, and logic behind it, then they simply cannot publish that ruling. It's either all the information or none of the information, right? And this is because it's the crypto space. If they're going to operate in the crypto space, they're going to have to raise their standards tenfold because it's this culture. People simply will not stand for poor transparency. And you know the worst thing about this second case? We can't even verify if it's real or fake, right? So here's me philosophically pontificating about this 27 account freeze order when it might not even be real. I was speaking to one of the top 21 block producers yesterday, and they actually showed me a fake arbitration order that someone had created and sent to all the block producers to try and trip them up. Now, the reason that this is even possible is because there's no way to verify these arbitration orders, to verify that they've been published by the real arbitrators. And why that is the craziest thing you've ever heard is because the EOS blockchain is right there, right? Any and all steps of arbitration and the publication process should be done on the EOS blockchain so that everybody can verify the actions and the dates and the process for themselves right there on the blockchain. That's not being used though, and that's the craziest thing about it. The reason this is important is because that will go a long way to beating the fraudsters, right? Because as it is now, you give them an inch and they'll take a mile, and they have been taking a mile. You simply cannot afford to give them an inch. You know, EOS needs to be whiter than white because in this game you start off with a negative trust balance, and it is then within your power to increase or decrease your trust balance based on your behavior, which is in your control, right? And if your trust balance decreases because you engage in a behavior that the community looks down on, and you're completely oblivious to the fact, well, then I don't think you're fit for purpose. If you don't understand the community with which you are dealing with, that makes you not fit for purpose. You can't just take expert arbitrators from outside the crypto world, plonk them naively in the crypto world, and expect everything to be okay. And again, what's most important about all this is the understanding of what the crypto user base values most, right? We value transparency almost above anything else. We want you to over-communicate. We want you to communicate so many details about what you're doing that we get effing sick of it. Right? That's about as far as you need to go. That's really the only way to gain real trust in the crypto space, through what Dan Larimer labeled radical transparency, right? The users don't necessarily have to engage in this radical transparency at this stage, but block producers and organizations like the Core Arbitration Forum definitely do. So to conclude this chapter, I'll share with you a bold move in the right direction, I might add, made by one of the top 21 block producers, EOS New York. So this is a stroke of leadership, if you ask me. So I'll just read you out the two most important paragraphs from the Medium article that they posted this morning. Here we go. This is from the article. Quote, "In our code of conduct, we state that we abide by, follow and enforce all arbitration decisions that are enacted without delay. We also will abstain from publishing opinions on active arbitration. Furthermore, we state we pledge to further EOS through advancements in technology, community organization, and EOS education for the purposes of increasing adoption. Pursuing to these efforts, we have made the following decision. So this is still within the Medium article from EOS New York. They say, because EOS New York is unable to verify any subsequent opinion of ECAF in a transparent and secure manner on-chain, we cannot with confidence execute any statement claiming to be from an ECAF opinion. We will resume normal processing once communications can be established on-chain such that they can be audited both by EOS New York and the community. Close quote. So that's the end of the quote from the EOS New York Medium post. So basic translation, EOS New York is not going to agree to freeze any more accounts. They're not going to comply with any more arbitration orders until the EOS arbitration process is moved to the EOS blockchain itself. Otherwise, we the community nor EOS New York have any efficient or transparent or systematic way of verifying arbitration cases. This is ultimately how it should have been from the start, right? We should have launched the EOS blockchain in the way that we did, but without the arbitration feature, until such time as we had a tool that was coded up to do it all on-chain. Then, and only then, should users have been able to submit arbitration order requests, right? Ironically enough, if more of the top block producers go the way of EOS New York, that's exactly where we're going to end up, with the arbitration process being withdrawn until such time as it can be done properly on-chain. So that's all I've got for you today. If you like this episode, go ahead, hit the like button. If you want to give me some feedback, leave a comment down below and get subscribed. And if you would like to learn more in depth about how blockchain technology works, check out my step-by-step online courses where you can learn how blockchains work under the hood. You can learn how to make and save money with Bitcoin, or you can learn how to trade cryptocurrencies. You can also join as a patron if you want access to my private chat group where you can debate me on these topics, get questions and answers instantaneously. But until next time, guys, I'll be back with the next episode of the Cryptoverse. Until then, it's me, Chris Coheney, saying bye for now.